Hey everyone, welcome back to 996. The Howell Utah wins 4-3 in overtime against the Avalanche, the Colorado Avalanche. What an electrifying game. This is game number 7 of 82. Felt like game 6 in a playoff series in the first round. Let's get into it. 30 seconds into the game, ESPN, at least my feed, totally misses a Cooley, just incredible grade A scoring chance, all alone with Wedgwood, dekes him out. But Wedgwood makes a desperation save early. That was 30 seconds into the game. Following that, there was a rare Dmitry Simashev wraparound, and he gets his own rebound as well with his reach. Great to see Simashev, try to get in on the offense. And then Cooley drops MacKinnon at the defensive blue line with a great shoulder to chest hit. MacKinnon just flops on the ground. Vejmelka had to stand tall early as well with a big save. The Avalanche behind the net, throw the puck out to the slot, a one-timer, and Vejmelka is there to make the huge save. But unfortunately, the Avalanche get the first goal of the game. It's a Makar point shot, and Vejmelka does not see this puck at all. Literally just stands there, doesn't even react. It seems like he didn't even know the puck left Makar's stick. Not too many bodies in front of him. There was a pretty high screen by Tanev who was covering Makar, but I think Vejmelka just couldn't track it. And it's a pretty bad look for Vejmelka, but at least he had a stellar game. I mean, not going to harp on him too much. It's an elite, one of the best world-class defensemen in the league. He misses it. He rebounded after that and really got it together. So can't be too hard on him, even though he totally just missed that shot against, and it goes in the net. Utah has the power play to answer back. They don't look too good on their first power play, bobbling a lot of pucks, just maybe gripping their sticks a little bit too tight. It felt like a sort of David versus Goliath in this first period. Thankfully, that wasn't the case for the whole game, but I feel like the first period, definitely the Avalanche were the better team. They looked more confident, more composed. They attacked more consistently than Utah did. Carcone had a great chance at the side of the net, sort of at the goal line. It was a pretty empty netter. Like, he had Wedgwood coming across the crease, so he had a lot of space to put the puck in, but he gets saved and can't score on it. Then Vejmelka answers back with two big saves on a Nathan MacKinnon breakaway. He gets the initial shot and the rebound saved as well. Just the Avalanche were pretty relentless in this first period. They outshot Utah 13-10. So even though those shots on goal wasn't that big of a gap, I just felt the Avalanche were the better team, and Utah had to make some adjustments if they wanted to get points in this game, and they needed to be way better. That is not the team that we've seen in this early part of this season so far. So we go into the second period. 45 seconds in, the Avalanche make it 2-0, but thankfully it's called for offside. That was Landeskog's first goal in the regular season in 3 years, I think the broadcast said. So thankfully, fortunately, it gets called for offside, even though they took 8 minutes to declare that was offside. After that call, there's a great offensive chance for Utah. Schmidt to Keller, and Keller cross ice finds Schmaltz, and Schmaltz just can't get a good stick on it. He had Wedgwood beat. It was a pretty open net, but he just couldn't get his stick on it. Remember that play, because that's a little bit of foreshadowing. Keller cross ice to a teammate. So they can't score there. And then a really bad moment here. McPayne falls into the boards and has to leave the game, and he doesn't return. And this was early in the second period, so he had a lot of time to come back on the ice if it was just a minor fall. But it seems like it's an injury. As I'm recording right now, I don't have an update, so hopefully it's not a long-term injury and it was all just precautionary. After that, Cooley finds Peterka in the slot, but that gets denied. Then it's a Colorado 2-on-1, MacKinnon on a 2-on-1. I mean, how more dangerous than that can you get? MacKinnon keeps shoots, and Vejmelka makes the save. And then it looks like Utah ties it up 1-1 when Ryan Smith is on the broadcast. It's a Marino point shot, finds its way in the net, but it gets called back for goalie interference. I agree with it. This day and age, if you go into the blue paint on your own volition, on your own, no one's pushing you, and you make the slightest, I agree, it was like the most minimal contact with the goalie, and he was kind of sandwiched between the defender and Wedgwood, but he enters the blue paint on his own, and that's when you're going to get called for goaltender interference. So that goal gets called back. They're still down 1-0, Utah is. And then there's a Colorado chance. Nietzsche streaking in all alone. A great pad save by Vejmelka and great back check by Sergachev. And then finally, Utah ties it up on the power play. It's Nick Schmaltz again in the slot. That's his office now. You got the Gunther office to the side of the net, top of the circle, one-timer. And now you got Nick Schmaltz. His office is right in front of the blue paint. This time it's not a pass to Schmaltz. Keller at the side of the net shoots it. It's a shoulder save by Wedgwood. A big rebound goes right to the slot, and Schmaltz puts it in to make it 1-1. Assists go to Keller and Sergachev. That's Sergachev's first point on the season. I couldn't believe that stat when I read that. And then shortly after, Utah makes it 2-1 with Krause's first goal of the year, assisted by Stenlund and Carconi. Stenlund at the side of the ice finds Krause all alone on the other side of the ice. So it's like a cross ice pass, pretty much the whole sheet of the ice, and Wedgwood is totally out of position. So it's a great open net chance for Krause. There's a lot of open net chances, I'm saying, for Utah this game. Thankfully, Krause doesn't make a mistake and executes on that to make it 2-1. It was a much better second period for Utah. More dictating play, controlling play, not playing on their heels like they were in the first. They outshot the Avalanche 15-7, a huge gap and disparity in the second period. The Avalanche didn't have a shot for the last 8 minutes of the second period. There's also one more good chance. Stenlund found O'Brien alone in the slot, and he does a great one-timer, but totally hits Wedgwood right in the crest. Wedgwood didn't have to make any crazy saves for that one. I think the puck just went directly to the middle of the net off an O'Brien one-timer, and then Utah gets committed for a penalty, 1 minute left in the second, so it's a transitional penalty kill. And in the third period, they do kill it off, but shortly after it expires, the Avalanche tie it up 2-2, 1 minute in to the third period. Just pretty harmless. The Avalanche have the puck sort of in the corner at the sideboards. They just throw it on net, and it finds an Avalanche stick right there, uncovered right in the crease area, and he puts it in to make it 2-2. This is a 6 out of 7th game where it's either a tie or, you know, they're down by 1 or up by 1. It's a really tight third period, and now it seems like the Mammoth are just used to this, which is great. Like long-term success, the fact that Utah is finding success in these tight, really tight third periods. In the playoffs, like most games are pretty much tied in the third. So the fact that Utah keeps building on this, that they could come through and grab points and even win games when tied late in the third, even against elite teams like the Avalanche. And 5 minutes into this third period, I felt like the next goal wins. Like this is exactly like how it was against Boston. And Sergachev gets the goal to make it 3-2 unassisted. This is an odd goal. Like the Avalanche have possession of the puck in their defensive zone, behind their net. Everything seems to be going well. There's a little bit of pressure by Utah, but not much. They just bobble the puck around, rimming it around the boards. The puck lands on Sergachev's stick at the top of the circle, and he quickly does a nice snapshot, and Wedgwood just whiffs on it, and it goes into the net to make it 3-2. And here I am. I'm like, that's it. Next goal wins, and Utah got it. And for sure, they're going to win this game. And even after that, there was a Krause breakaway. He gets denied by Wedgwood. The crowd was standing on their feet the last 5 minutes of this third period. I mean, everything about this game was electric. It felt like a playoff game. And when they're standing on their feet, O'Brien and Tanev had a great shift of throwing their weight around, finishing their checks late in the game. You love to see that, get the crowd into it. But unfortunately, 2 minutes left in the game, the Avalanche tie it up 3-3. A really bad angle snipe by Nietzsche. He shoots it right by the ear of Vejmelka. You want him to seal that post up, but when you're on your knees and you're standing tall, there's always going to be this area open. Like there's nothing really you can do to cover that little area. And a great elite snipe by Necas to pick that like 1-inch diameter spot, ties it up 3-3. We go into overtime, and 30 seconds into overtime, the clutch player Gunther seals it and gets to win 4-3. This play was exactly like that play early in the second. Keller gets the puck. He's driving down the boards and throws a puck across the ice, across the crease. But this time, Gunther, instead of Schmaltz, is able to get his stick on it because he stops up. If he didn't stop up, Gunther would have just went right past the puck. But unlike Schmaltz, Gunther's able to get his stick on it, and the puck just hits his stick and goes in the net past the red line, and they get that win 4-3. A huge 2 points to go 5-2 to start this season. It took them 11 games last year to get their 5th win of the season. They're on a 4-game win streak. They only did that one time last year in all 82 games, just one 4-game win streak, and they've already done it 7 games in. So they're streaking, they're feeling good. They got a huge road trip coming up. I said it in last video, it's like the Blues, the Wild, the Jets, and the Oilers all on the road, a Western gauntlet. Sergachev with 3 points, his first 3 points of the season. I'm sure he's loving it. That should get him fired up and maybe contribute a little bit more offensively. And let's go, Utah. They're in the top 3 of the division, even though the Avalanche and the Jets are doing exceptionally well as well. Just love this success by Utah early, and it seems like it's sustainable success. Whereas last year, that early success where they went on a 3-game win streak to start, it seemed like there was a lot of defensive problems. They're outscoring their problems. This time, it's like this team is in it. They're composed, they're confident, and they're sticking with it, and they're finding ways to get points and wins. So they just got to keep doing this, and they're doing this without Durzi and Kerfoot. And hopefully the McBain injury isn't too long-term. Shots were 33 apiece. Power play 1 for 2. Great job to get a power play goal. That helped. It would have helped in other games as well. PK 1 for 1, so they were disciplined, which is great. And faceoffs 55%. So a lot to like in this game, a lot to build on, and for sure a confidence booster for beating one of the top teams in the league, and especially in their division. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.